Hi everybody, my name is Jim and welcome back to a brand new episode of Make Do Mondays. Preserving food is probably one of the most important parts of having a victory garden or a dig for victory type of campaign. Preserving the food that you cannot possibly consume fresh is of the utmost importance. You want to make sure that you have food that's going to be lasting you throughout the rest of the year, into the winter months, and possibly even going into next spring as you start planning out your next year's garden. Now, I do a lot of canning. There's no doubt about that. I love putting up fresh food that has been overly abundant in my yard. But other things that I like to do is to can different things that I don't grow in my garden. So today's episode, I'm going to be canning peaches. Now, canned peaches is probably one of my favorite desserts. I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But there is nothing like cracking open a bottle of canned peaches that you've done yourself and having it with a bit of ice cream during those winter months. Just the tastiest thing ever, and even all the more rewarding knowing that you have done the work yourself. Now, peaches are not in season right now here in Western New York. We don't expect peaches until late August, early September. However, because the United States is such a huge country, there are other states here that will come into production much sooner than us here. And I utilized, not very World War II of me, but I did utilize the internet, and I found a couple of years ago that there is a company that sells peaches from the South. So from the southern states, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, etc. You get the idea. This fabulous company is called the Peach Truck, and they literally pick the fruit from the trees, stack it into boxes, get it in their truck, and then they drive all over the country in places where peaches aren't all that prevalent this time of year, and then you can buy them, and that's what I do. One of the reasons why I do not wait for the peaches to come into season here is because at that point in the growing season, everything else is coming into production and starting to yield, and I'm usually, out of my mind busy with preserving other types of food. So this is the perfect way for me to get what I love preserved and also to budget my time so that in the future I'll have more time to take care of the stuff that I'm actually growing. Now, buying things in bulk in order to can is definitely something that happened back then. My father would tell me stories about how my grandfather would buy things in bulk to can, tomatoes, things that he didn't grow in large amounts so that they could preserve it. He would tell me stories about, my grandfather bringing home bushels and bushels of whatever, and then all the kids knew that the rest of that day was going to be spent preserving that food. So I'm here in the kitchen. This is where I'm going to be doing it. The hardest part about canning in this kitchen this time of year is the heat. Okay, this house is small. Okay, this house does not have a basement. This house tends to trap heat really fast. The kitchen's actually quite warm right now. I do have the air conditioner going in the house right now, which has taken the bite off of the heat a little bit. But if you think about back then, people had other means of taking care of preserving their food. Some people have canning kitchens in their basements, which I wish I had a basement for that very reason, because that I would definitely have a canning kitchen down there, meaning they had an extra stove and they had all of the supplies down there, tables and stuff like that, so that they could take care of a sink, very important. They can take care of preserving the food down there. It's a lot cooler in the basement. I know that my mom's family had a summer kitchen, okay, in their old farmhouse, and they used to have transportable kind of kerosene ovens that they would bring outside or into the summer kitchen where they would preserve their food just to get the heat out of the house. So thankfully I've got air conditioning that's taking the bite off of it. So there are some things you need to have before you start preserving your own food, okay? First and foremost, you're going to need directions, okay? Unless this is something you've been doing for years and years and years, and it's something that's been passed down to you, you're going to need to know what to do, okay? Now, most of the time, actually all of the time, I usually go for this book right here, okay? This is the Ball book for home preserving, the complete book of home preserving, and they've got everything that you would need in here. I'm not going to be utilizing this book today, actually. I'm going to be utilizing this. Okay, this is an authentic 1940s wartime volume. Has to do about the home front canner and everything you need to know. This is Home Canning in Wartime by Elsie Clark. Okay, and I just want to read a little bit out of the beginning of this. It says, can what you can. After you've taken what you need for your table out of your garden, every surplus for future use. There are just as many vitamins and minerals in canned foods as in fresh cooked foods, and you will be storing up health and energy for your family. Your ancestors preserved and pickled and brined and salted food to last them through the winter because they couldn't go down to the corner grocery to replenish their supply. Now that, the heat's getting to me already, now that your own grocer's shelves are becoming less heavily stocked with canned goods and the variety he offers is not so tempting, you're going to feel like a sturdy pioneer when you go down your own fruit cellar and bring up a jar of your own tomatoes or corn or peaches. So, very good philosophy, all right? Definitely. Now, I'm just going to stop the video for a second because a lot of my pots that are on the stove right now are starting to boil over. I need to go turn down that heat. Okay, I'm back. So, supplies that you are going to need beyond directions, okay? And a lot of directions you can find online now, which is really convenient. But you're going to need a bit of kit to do this correctly, okay? First and foremost, you're going to need your canning jars. And for the peaches, I'm going to be doing quart jars. Sometimes you can do pints if you wish, but I go right for the quarts because, frankly, a pint is never enough for one serving of peaches for me. I go big or go home. So I've got a couple packages here of quart jars. There are 3, 6, 9, 12. There's a dozen jars in each package. I have 24 quarts here. Other things that you're going to need. Clean towels, okay? I'll explain why you're gonna need these as we do it. Also, some kind of a grabbing implement, okay? You're gonna need this grabbing implement in order to put the jars in the water bath and take out the water bath, okay? And I believe they sell, in America, they sell kits. The Ball company sells kits that you can buy that have all the necessary ingredients. Supplies, not ingredients. I also have something that's a little bit non-conventional. This is basically a magnet on a stick, okay? And you use this to retrieve your lids from the hot water. You'll see what that's all about. I also have a poking instrument here, okay? You're gonna need to use this in order to get the air bubbles out of your canning. And then, probably most importantly, you've got your canning funnel, okay? You'll see a lot of these are old ones are aluminum. They look very similar to this, but this is how you're going to neatly put your product into your jars without getting the jars all gunked up. So those are your supplies. You're also going to need a water bath canner, okay? You can see this big, huge enamel, speckled, wonderful vessel here, that is a water bath canner. You could also use it as a regular pot if you wanted to. So I have that up there. It's getting nice and hot as we speak. Besides that, I've got another enamel pot over here with boiling water in it. I'll explain why. And what you can't see behind there is just a smaller saucepan with water in it as well. So we're going to go over to the stove. I'm going to show you exactly what all of these things are going to be used for. So here are my 3 pots. I have to say before I, tell you exactly what's going on here, this stove is really amazing when it comes to canning because there's so much room on the top of it. It really is wonderful. So the big canister here, the big pot here, I said is for processing. Okay, this is the water bath canner. I do not have the grate that goes on the bottom inside. I'm going to show you why in a second. But this is going to be used for 2 different things. Okay, over here I have another big pot of water that's on the boil. This is going to be for blanching my peaches. Okay, and then last but not least, this little pot here is where I'm going to be soaking my lids. Okay, so 3 pots in total. You may need 4, but I'm going to show you how I do it. The first thing that you want to do before anything else, okay, is you need to sterilize your jars. Okay, I'm pulling these right out from the packaging. They need to be sterilized so that you make sure that there are no microbes in these whatsoever. Even the slightest bit of life that might exist could blossom into something much grander when you process these cans, and it could rot your food. And that's, after all the trouble that you're going to go through, that is the last thing you want to happen. Okay, there are 3 parts to the canning jar. Obviously you have the jar portion, you've got the band, okay, and then lastly you have the lid. The lid has kind of a rubbery gasket, okay. What you want to do with the lids is you want to soak them in hot water, and that way this lid, this little piece of rubber here, will get nice and soft, so that when you put the lid back onto the bottle, okay, it will firm itself on there to create a really, really good seal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that in the small pan to get it nice and hot. Okay, you could also do the same with the lid, and that's what I'm going, or not the lid, the band. I'm going to do that as well. Okay, and then the last thing you want to do is you want to drop your jar, woo-wee, sorry about that, in the water. Okay, it's going to fill up and hit the bottom. Okay, now depending on how big your batch is, you want to get them all sterilized. You could do them in the dishwasher. I kind of wish I did today because of the heat, but if you don't have the means to do that, doing it this way is just as good. The book says yields 2 to 2.5 pounds equals 1 quart. 1 bushel equals 18 to 24 quarts. Okay, use freshly picked, firm, ripe peaches, grade for uniformity and degree of ripeness. Put enough for 1 quart into a wire basket. Plunge into boiling water. Now, I've got the basket for the water bath canner sitting on top of this old Columbia family scale, okay, and I have it set to 0. I already have about 12 pounds of peaches right here measured out. Okay, but I have 8 canning jars, so I want to go for at least 16 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to continue weighing these out. These are beautiful peaches. They're firm, but the color is nice. The shape is uniform. Okay, so I had 12 here. 12 plus 6 is 18. All right. So I have 8 jars, okay? 2 to 2.5 pounds per jar. That's 16. I'm going a little bit over just in case there is more room in there. So I'm going to take it to 18 pounds and we'll see how that does. So we're going to be utilizing this pot of water, okay? There's boiling water in this currently. What we need to do next is we need to take the skin off of the peaches. Best way to do that is to plunge the peach into the boiling water and then let it soak for about a minute, maybe a little bit longer, okay? And then these will go directly into the sink where I have filled the basin with ice cold water. Okay, so the hot water is going to help remove the skin, all right, from the flesh. And then when we throw it into the cold water, it's going to kind of release that skin. And then you should be able to peel it right off. I have to admit, I haven't had a ton of success in the past doing that, but we'll see how it goes. All right. I don't have the convenience of a double basin sink. However, that never bothered me, especially with this sink. These drip trays on either side have really been a blessing. Okay, peaches have been in for about a minute, minute and a half. I'm just going to fish them out, put them in the cold water. And the cooling off, the quick cool off should help pull the skin from the flesh. That's what they say. Like I said, I have never had really huge luck with that. It could be the variety of peach that I'm using. I don't like to keep them in too long though, because then it starts to really cook the flesh, and I don't want these, I want them to be relatively firm going into the jars. So when I process them, okay, which is going to take a good 15 minutes, there's going to be, you know, they're going to be under a lot of pressure and a lot of heat, and they're going to essentially cook down, and you don't want them to be mush. Okay, so these are all in. I'm going to let these cool down really, really fast. I'm going to throw this kettle back on and throw some more peaches in as well. Let's see how this goes. Now the skin is supposed to, I'm just going to tease it just a little bit with the point of a knife here. There we go. Skin should just peel right off. Look at that. Okay. Oh, I stand corrected. It worked. Now there are going to be parts of the peach that aren't going to tear off as easily as what just happened there, but no matter. It started the process. Just use my knife to kind of convince it. Okay, and then peel away. So I'm going to get on with the rest of these. I've got to get the other peaches off the stove, get all of these peeled, and then I'm going to show you what to do next. One thing that I need to clarify before I continue, and this is probably something that I should have told you earlier in the video, but there are two different types of peaches if you are canning them, okay? The first variety is called a Freestone Peach. That means that, you know, when you cut the peach in half, you just give it a twist and the flesh comes off the pit with a great deal of ease. The other type is called Clingstone, and these are Clingstone peaches. I thought they were Freestone peaches. They are Clingstone peaches, which means it's just a little bit more difficult to get a decent half, peach half, okay? Because as you can see, I have one here, the flesh really hangs on to that pit. It doesn't come off of it easily, but no matter. So I'm gonna take my knife here and I'm gonna cut this down in half, going right down to the peach pit, okay? Making sure that it's right down there. Okay, now I'm just going to twist the knife ever so carefully to give a little space in there. And then I'm going to follow the shape of the pit. Okay. I'm running literally right down the side of it. Okay, so here's one half of a peach. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. I'm just kind of digging around it, digging around that pit. Okay, and obviously be very, very careful when you're handling sharp utensils like this. Okay, oh, see, now this one already broke off. No matter, I'll enjoy that later. Okay, and slowly make your way around the pit. And here's the other half. Okay, so this is going to take me twice as long to do. I did not anticipate this happening, but I'm going to get on with it. The next thing that you want to do once your peaches have been halved and peeled, okay, is to get the jars, which have been sterilizing for some time now, out of the water bath here. Okay, and that's where these jar pullers, I don't know what you would call them, come in handy. Okay, so you take it with one hand, you're going to grab, let's see, going to grab the jar by the top. Okay, make sure that you get any water out that may be inside. Okay, and then you're going to place them somewhere to cool off. Okay, and as you can see, I put a few clean towels underneath it just to keep the hot jar off of the cool enamel. Okay. The next thing that they require you to do after all of your peaches have been sliced and taken care of, and incidentally, I ended up going with quarters instead of halves because getting those peaches off of their stone was miserable work, I'll tell you what. But the quarters look pretty decent. Anyways, book says make a syrup of 1 cup of sugar to 2 cups of water. It also says or a half a cup of sugar plus a half cup of honey or syrup to 2 cups of water. Okay, so you want double the water than the sugar. So I have, what did I say, 18 pounds? Okay, 18 pounds. So that means that I'm going to be doing 9 cups of sugar, okay, and then 18 cups of water. So I'm just going to measure out my sugar here. And this is granulated sugar. All right. This is a 10-pound bag, by the way. Close to the top. All right, put that in. And then I'm going to fill this up with a couple of these. Okay. Now we have to bring this mixture to a boil. What we're doing is we're creating a simple syrup. So we want all of the sugar to blend well with the water. And then we're going to bring it up to a boil. This is a hot pack method, so what we're going to do is we're going to end up simmering the peaches inside the syrup. Okay. Now I may have entirely too much syrup. I plan on packing these pretty tight into the jars. I may have a bunch of syrup left over, which is absolutely fine. I always make it a point to add just a little bit more of the simple syrup whenever I'm doing a hot pack method, especially with fruit, because any syrup that is left over, okay, when I fish these puppies out, pack them in the jars and then top them off, any syrup that's left over, I'm going to put into a mason jar and throw into the refrigerator. It becomes the perfect sweet, sugary syrup, that you could use for lots of things. I like to use it for cocktails. Imagine all that peachy deliciousness going into the sugar, into the syrup, having that left over and mixing it with some gin and maybe some tonic. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to bring this up to the boil and show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, my simple syrup is now on the boil. Now this is the point in which we have to give these peaches a bit of a simmer. So, I'm just going to start spooning these in very carefully, and be very careful when you're handling simple syrup because it is terribly hot, wickedly hot. So you don't want to go pouring this huge container full of sliced peaches directly into it because it might splash up, and if it does that, we hope you have good health insurance. All right, I'm going to get these spooned in. Once these are all spooned in, I'm going to let it simmer for 4 to 5 minutes, and then we'll take a look at the next step. All right. The peaches have had time to simmer, and now they are ready to go into the canning jars. Okay. Make sure, double check, make sure that your jars have been properly sterilized. The filling process is pretty easy. Okay, so you'll take your funnel, you're going to put it over the top, just like this, and then using a slotted spoon, okay, you're just going to take a few at a time, drop them in, and you're going to try to fit as many as you possibly can into the jar. Okay. It smells so good. When you get to the top, okay, if you feel as though you won't have any more room, all you need to do give it a shake, give it a pound so that everything settles. Now I've got about another inch or so at the top, so I'm going to top it off even more. You want to leave about a ½ an inch of space at the top. Okay, let's give these another pound. All right, so there they are, nice and cozy. And then what you're going to do is you're going to ladle in some of that delicious syrup. Okay. Now, as you're doing this, you're going to see it bubble a bit. That is all of the air pockets that may be inside. Okay. What you want to do is get rid of as much of that air, if not all of it. Okay, and that's where this implement comes in handy. Okay, you just take it down. Let's see, I do stop burning myself. Okay, get it in down on the side so that you can really get all that syrup in there. And you're going to notice, you're going to see some bubbles jumping up. That's the air leaving the jar. Okay, this could use a little bit more. We want a ½ an inch of headspace. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to get on with filling all of these up, okay, and then I'm going to show you what the next step is going to be. As you can see, I have quite a bit of syrup left here, which is absolutely fine. Like I said, you can use it for other things, cocktails, yum yum. But also, I still have 1.5 bushels of these peaches to do. So I'm going to continue using this until, you know, all of the peaches are done, and then whatever I have left over, I will save. Okay, all of my jars are filled. All right, I have another clean cloth here, and the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be cleaning off the very top lip of each of these cans. Okay, you want to make sure that you don't have any residue whatsoever on that, because if you do, the little rubber gasket, okay, that closes the jar will not be able to stick properly. And if that happens, well, you're just gonna end up ruining the whole canning process. It's not gonna be a good thing. So give these a clean, get all that stickiness off of it. Do you have to do all the way around? No, you don't. Just the very top lip where that gasket is going to be touching. Now, the nice thing about that funnel is that it keeps it pretty well clean, I have to say. But this is just a fail-safe, just to make sure. Okay, so I have about a ½ inch on each of these jars clearance at the top, and I'm getting, you know, I've gotten all of the air bubbles out, making sure that I've gotten all the air bubbles out. All right, any extra air inside could cause these cans to burst. We don't want that to happen. All right, now I'm going to take my little magnet on a stick, fish out, very handy little thing, isn't it? Fish out one of these lids. I'm going to center it, okay, on the top, grab myself a band, and the rule of thumb, I'm just going to throw on my oven glove here, is you want to twist it just finger tight. Okay, you don't want to go crazy. Finger tight will be just fine. Okay, once you process these, all right, when you process these, the lid is going to be sucked in towards the fruit. Okay, and then you don't even need the bands. If you want to take them off, you can, but finger tight will be just fine. Let's do a couple more of these. All right, this water bath canner holds 7 quarts, which is actually perfect because that is exactly how many peaches I had that I had put together. So there was no waste there. I didn't have to worry about, you know, extra or anything like that. So all 7 are in. I drop them down, and you want them to be covered by the water. Okay, they're just barely covered. I'm gonna add just a little bit more water. I actually pulled this from the pan just to make sure. Okay. And then all that's left to do is throw the lid on it and wait for it to come to a boil. Once it comes to the boil, then I'm going to be setting my alarm, my egg timer for 15 minutes. These have to process in boiling water for 15 minutes. Okay. The timer has gone off. Our 15 minutes are done. All right. I'm going to be using this implement one more time to pull the jars out. One at a time. Just going to tip the excess off. Bring it over here. And then once again, I'm going to be putting these jars on top of that towel just to give it some extra pad. Oh, these look beautiful. Look at that. Summer goodness. I just love that color too. Beautiful. Beautiful. I have to say this kitchen is stinking hot right now. But I'm not going to complain about it. I'm actually excited that the first 7 quarts of these are taken care of. I'll probably have about another 10 quarts to go once all is said and done. Don't be fooled by modern technology, okay? A lot of editing went into this video, a lot of quick shots here and there. This is something, it literally takes quite a bit of time, okay? It took even longer because I filmed it, but I still have another 1.5 bushels to do. This is an all-day project. So don't think that you're going to be going into this having this completed in a couple of hours, because that's not even the case. Even the simplest of projects like jam and even cold packing takes time. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes precision. The last thing you want to do is cut corners when it comes to canning, because then all of the food processing that you have done, everything could go absolutely wrong, and you do not want this food to spoil. So really, you've got to follow the rules to a T to make sure that your produce is going to be preserved, okay? I'm over the moon. Now, there's one thing that I'm probably not, I don't know, maybe it will happen while I'm talking right now, but the one thing that does happen, and it's the most gratifying part of the canning process, is once these cans cool, okay, the vacuum takes hold on the can, and you'll be able to hear a click out of these cans. It's the top, okay, doing this. That's all that vacuum sucking it down, and that's when you know that your canning has worked, okay, that the can is sealed. You can, if you want to, after that is done, after these have cooled, I'm gonna let these cool for 24 hours, okay? You can, after that cooling time, take the band off if you want to. If you're going to be putting these in kind of a basement area or a cellar where there's a little bit of moisture, sometimes the bands can get a little bit rusty. So if you want to take them off, that's totally fine. Nothing will be affected by it, okay? I don't have that, so I'm probably just going to leave the bands on, which is okay, but I'm so excited. Fresh, delicious peaches, picked, harvested, processed, all within a few weeks, and then I'll be able to enjoy these during the winter months. Very, very excited. I hope you guys found this video to be informative. This is a straight up wartime canning project, which I'm really happy to show you. I do have in my possession a pressure canner as well. So when you come to the foods that are low in acid, or it perhaps doesn't use some kind of a simple syrup, you use a pressure canner. So like green beans, corn, you could even do soups and stews and stocks, things like that. I will definitely be doing a pressure canner video as well. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for subscribing. Please hit the notification bell, thumbs up, and leave your comments. If you guys have any other tips about canning that you've picked up along the way, feel free to put it down there in the comments box below so that we can all benefit from it. I'll be back in the garden for our next video. Not sure what that's going to be yet, but it will be in the garden for sure. And I hope you guys will start harvesting and think about how you're going to be putting all of this food up that you may have extra, okay, so that you can save it and enjoy it. Thanks so much again, and I hope to see you all really, really soon. So long.